Okay, today's video is about the conservatives constantly complaining about how liberal the world is, blah, blah, blah. And they always make it sound imminent because it's the elected officials that say this, and it reaches their base, gets their base all riled up and voting for them. I would just like to say a side note here. I don't know why politicians do what they do, because they're just always preaching to the choir. Always. It's rare. I've never really heard people who switched, what do you call it, parties, simply because, oh, I listened to this politician and it's always he. Sad to say, it's always a he. He made more sense to me. No. No, you voted along party lines. And if you switched parties, it was because you wanted to. It wasn't because it was because you thought your party was going in the wrong direction, and you're using that. This politician said this, that, resonated with me. No. That's not how that works. Because the parties stand for something. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, I heard, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody, can't remember who it was. Well, actually, I heard a couple politicians who ended up becoming president, because they identified, they wanted, or at least wanted to identify with this specific party. But as you get up the ranks there to presidency, you have to make firm stands on stuff like abortion, immigration, socialized medicine, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't meet the criteria of that party, let's say you're pro-choice, but all men should be pro-choice. STFU if you don't have a uterus. Don't be telling me what you think I should do if you were to have a uterus. It's what I would do if I were you. Nonsense. Anyway, so like if you don't make a definite stance on, let's say you identify as a Republican when you're, I don't know, mayor. I don't know if that even happens, but let's say you identified as a Republican when you were mayor, but you've always been pro-choice. Well, it really doesn't matter when you're running for mayor, because, that's not going to come up. And, that nobody's going to be able to vote on that for your town specifically. So, anyways, as you move up the ranks and get yourself towards presidency, by the time you get to presidency, these issues are going to be forefront. I don't know if there's an actual hearing to where, like, the Republicans and or the Democrats say, tell us what you believe in so we know if we want you identifying with us. I don't know how that works, but you cannot still be pro-choice and be Republican. Okay, the Republicans will not allow you to run on that platform. I mean, you can lie and say, I'm anti-abortion, and then the Republicans will take you in. But if you're going to say I'm pro-choice, yeah, they're not going to let you do that. So I've heard of two, and I don't remember who they are. They were two politicians who switched sides because of that. Switched parties because of, certain issues, which is incredibly stupid, and that's why people vote along party lines, because to run for office as a Republican, you have to identify with certain things. If you run for office as a Democrat, you have to identify with certain things on, what they consider key issues. I don't consider most of these issues key issues, but they do. Anyways, basically it's their talking points. that they want you to align with them on, because that's how they win their votes. But again, why are we going around? We're speaking to the choir. The only people who are preaching to the choir, the only people who attend the Republican rallies are people who are going to vote Republican, and the media, who may or may not agree with, you know, the Republican Party or the person who, whatever. Anyways, it's worthless. It's a waste of money. Yay, our two-party system. Anyways, getting back to the world getting more progressive. My own partner, who's a complete idiot, he's, every time he opens his mouth about politics, he sounds more and more stupid. Okay? And it embarrasses me how stupid he is when it comes to politics, how ignorant, how narrow-minded he is when it comes to politics. It's embarrassing. Like, if I'm with him, I hope politics never comes up, because my face would be beet red if he was to say anything, right? He talks to his parents, and it sounds, at least his parents know how stupid he sounds, but like other people, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, it's embarrassing to me how stupid he is when it comes to politics. He's ignorant. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He does the talking point things. He makes dramatic, nonsensical statements. One of the things that he even said was how progressive the world is getting so progressive. Yeah, as it should. You know, as we discover new things. Like, we don't allow clitoridectomies in this country anymore. Thank Flying Spaghetti Monster. Okay? Because we have learned that does more harm than help. And it never helped anything. But it's very harmful. The physical pain that comes along with it. The emotion, you know, the mental pain of being reduced to your sexual parts, also the misogyny, you know, the idea of the misogyny behind it, having to live with that, you know, that your country condones the misogyny that goes along with, you know, or labia removal, or, you know, all this stuff. Women are allowed to wear trousers now. Oh my gosh, how liberal, you know. That was illegal. Women wearing trousers used to be illegal. And now women wear trousers. It's rare to find a woman wearing a dress. You know, it's not a unicorn thing, but it's rare. Men don't wear hats anymore. And depending on, you know, the time period, because at one time men didn't wear hats, then there was a prudish period where men did wear hats. Top coats. There was a time when men wore top coats and had to wear top coats to various, you know, fields of work, or, you know, restaurants, outings. Men don't wear them anymore. It's rare to find a man wearing a top coat. Let's see. Oh, there's just so many things that have become liberal. You know, it used to be, and I don't agree with this, but more people are opting out of circumcision for boys, right? I don't agree with opting out of circumcision. Yeah, but, you know, that it used to just be a given that the boys were circumcised in the hospital. I'm very pro-circumcision. Let's see. Religion. Even though our quote-unquote founding fathers, and I hate people giving founding fathers praise. I absolutely hate it. The founding fathers were misogynists and racists. They were backwards. Everybody was backwards thinking back then, just because we didn't know what we know now, but everybody was backwards thinking, like the hierarchy of, you know, white males, wealthy white males on top, and, you know, then indigenous people on the bottom. You know, slaves were, I think, one bit higher than indigenous people. I don't know. Maybe slaves were lower. It depends on how you're looking at the thing. But either way, there was this pyramid, which still exists. The pyramid scheme still exists, but not to the extent, not the overt extent where people were just outright saying, white males are the smartest people on the planet. Everybody else is, I mean, like women were considered too stupid to vote. That's why we didn't. That's another thing. Women have the right to vote. You know, but it used to be like people just outright said, well, let's say probably it was mostly men just outright said, women were too stupid to know how to vote properly, which, let's be honest, it just means vote the way their husband or their father, if they're not married, votes. They, you know, heaven forbid, you know, they didn't want to hand over power to anybody but them, is what the bottom line was. They didn't give women a chance to show that they could do stuff. Women couldn't have their own a bank account in their name. Women, it wasn't until the 1980s when women could have credit cards in their own name without a husband's name being on the credit card to file for approval. Women didn't have the right to their own paychecks. All the money they earned if they were not married, it went to their father or the male head of household, which was probably their brother. And if they were married, it went to their husband. Spousal rape wasn't a nationwide crime until, I think it was the 70s, and I think it took until the 80s to even get it enforced, you know, to get them. And we can thank The Burning Bed for that, the book, which then turned into, you know, which was then made into a movie. The Burning Bed is what caused all this, you know, domestic abuse awareness and actually making laws and enforcing them for spousal abuse. Because let's admit, women are abused a lot more than men when it comes to physical and sexual abuse. And when it comes to domestic partnership, it's the women that suffer overwhelmingly more than men. So yeah, it's becoming liberal. Women are getting rights. People of color. Hey, slavery's been abolished, right? We're now trying to reform the policing system so we don't see, so, you know, people of color aren't worried, you know, don't have to fear for their life getting pulled over or getting pulled over unnecessarily or unfairly. We're trying to change things with the, judicial system. So people of color aren't unfairly put in prison or put with bail or high bails. There should be no bail. But anyways, you know, unfairly put with high bails that they can't pay, thus having to go to prison. We're trying to make it to, birth control. We're trying to, you know, there's the female movement of, you know, trying to make men responsible for birth control. You know, that shouldn't be put on us. They should be responsible for their own birth control instead of dumping it all on us. Let's see, the Me Too movement. Yes, there's so much liberal. The world was so bad and backwards. And I'm not talking about technology. You know, technology has made us, so there's good and bads of technology. I think there's just much stuff that makes us stupid with technology as it makes us better, right? But what I'm talking about is the ideologies we used to hold. We used to be just so terrible. I mean, we used to believe in eugenics, okay? The United States was practicing eugenics for at least a couple generations. Hitler got his foothold in United States eugenics research and studies and promotions. We used to be terrible people when we were not progressive. Terrible, terrible people. Husbands would commit their wives to insane asylums just because they didn't want to deal with them anymore. And the insane asylums were just horrible. They were unclean, unsanitary. Disease was rampant. The attendants abused the inmates just horribly. Our prison system, though still horrible, is a lot better than what it used to be. It's a lot better. It's much more sanitary. And it's just, you know, the jailers treat, even though there's a lot that it definitely needs improvement. It's a lot better than what it was. And I'm not saying we should be stopped. No, we need a lot more improvement. I'm just saying progressiveness is a positive. I cannot believe I actually have to say that it's good to be progressive. I mean, that's the whole definition. It's built in the definition of progressive. If people who say the world is so liberal, it's always been becoming liberal. Okay, I am an atheist. I can make this video and say I'm an atheist without fear of repercussion. Now, yes, I have had a little repercussions, but nothing big, nothing that changed my life, just people getting mad at me. That's all it was people getting mad at me and trying to get revenge on me in their own way for me saying I was an atheist. But I'm not going to be thrown in jail. At one time, I would have been thrown in jail. I would have been burned as a witch or a heretic. I would have been excommunicated. I would have been thrown out of the community. Okay, depending on what time we are in history. I mean, the beginning of history of this nation, it really didn't matter. But once the white people came, then all of a sudden, prudism reigned, right? And there was just, we regressed, or this plot of land regressed a lot when the white people came and committed genocide on all the people who were here, and they brought their own white people prudish ideology. It regressed. I would say probably a few hundred years, you know, and women were treated terribly. Indigenous people were treated terribly. A lot of were enslaved, or they were beat, they were raped, they were killed. Then the slave trade came, and that set us, you know, a couple hundred years behind again. But we have progressed, and progression, it's built in the definition of the word that progression is good. We wouldn't be where we were. And if these people who say, oh, the world's so liberal now, we're becoming so liberal, blah, blah, blah. And they typically only say that when a Democrat's in office. And it's the right-wingers saying it. If they were to go back even 50 years, and I'm not just talking with the technology, I'm just talking about with the ideology of people at the time, they would absolutely hate it. And the thing about it is, the only people who are saying the world is so liberal really is mostly, almost exclusively, white males. White males used to have it great in the past, but them are the only, in this country. And again, I'm saying how far we go, because at one time there was no white people here. Oh, the good old days. Them were the good old days. But, yeah, it was the white males who had all the power, all the money. And so the only people who benefited, so people who are saying, if they're not white and they're not male, and they're saying, oh, the world was so, they did not live in that world, okay? They did not live in that world. That's why they would say the world used to be so great back in the day, because they had not had to live under the tyranny of domestic assault, domestic rape, the murder of rape victims, the blaming of rape victims for rape. not having any say, not having the right to vote. If you don't have the right to vote, nobody cares about you. That's why nobody cares about criminals. They don't have the right to vote. So we can demean them, we can demote them, we can say they deserve to be where they're at, they deserve to die, they deserve to be away from society, they deserve to be in cages, because they don't have a voice. So they don't get to say, hey, wait, what you're saying about me is untrue. And how would you like it if I said that about you? But they can't say that about you because they don't have the right to vote. So they have no voice to say what they want to say. And same with women. Women had no voice, so they did not have any rights to anything. They didn't have any right to say, hey, I'm just as smart as that man over there, plus I can multitask. That fucker can't do shit. But I can do 5 things at once. I can nurse a baby while doing the laundry, while watching over the stove, while babysitting the other 3 kids I have. Yes, I use the word babysitting just like men do when it comes to watching their own damn kids. But, anyways, getting all riled up. But I'm just saying, progressiveness is a good thing. And anybody who says how horrible, they're lying to themselves. They're lying to themselves when they say how bad things have gotten, how bad the world is, because it's so liberal now and there's loose morals and this and that. Okay. Tell them. You used to have to wear a 3-piece suit when exiting your house. Plus you had to have a top hat. How would you like that in 90-degree weather, dude? People were sweating and they were stinky all the time. And their clothes were dirty because they didn't have it. That's just a matter of access to, soap and technology to wash clothes quicker and easier. But, the part about having to wear the top hat and the 3-piece suit and fully dressed head to toe and no shorts, and you couldn't walk around, you men couldn't walk around shirtless. You couldn't walk around your own home shirtless. That was very immodest. Having to go to church, all the time. Men are opting out of church right and left. You go into churches, mostly women. That's why churches had to accept female. A lot of this liberalism is because men aren't doing what they're supposed to do. What they said, they're saying, oh, it's so liberal, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So women, in the conservative way they would like the world to be, they claim they want the world to be, they're going to have to get off their butts and do something. Go to church, become preachers, become head of households, do your due diligence, get off your, move that fat belly of yours and get stuff done but they don't want to. They just want to complain about liberalism when it comes to other people's rights, respecting other people, holding non-racist views. They don't like holding non-racist views. They don't like holding non-misogynistic, non-MRA views. They want it to be where they are the victims. They are the victims of liberalism. And the thing about it is this whole society stems on white maleism. White male ideology. That's what makes the laws. That's what makes, and the legal laws affect the social laws, and the social laws affect the legal laws. But the legal laws is really where it ends, right? Abortion wasn't such a moral issue until the court declared, hey, women do have the right to have an abortion. Where the law, then all of a sudden you got the right fighting back. Before that, it wasn't really so much of a fight. But now we got this law and there was a fight against it. But that strengthened the people who previously had said, yes, women have the right to, choose if they want to create life. And create and sustain life. This was, I don't know, I kind of got lost in a little rabbit trail there. I kind of snaked around and kind of came back on myself. But yeah, so the whole thing about liberalism is, bottom line is, as much as white men complain about how liberalism is so bad and blah blah blah, it's the white men making the laws. We are people of color and women or women are poorly represented in all the law-making spheres, right? Men are just not letting them in, and the status quo is just not letting them in these spheres. So these are white males making these laws, and the laws are progressing, so that alone tells you that no matter what white men say, I'm talking collectively as a group, I know individually there's slight differences. But yeah, they are progressing themselves. They want to progress. Okay, they want to go to the beach and be able to take their shirt off and swim or get a tan. They don't want to wear these hot, multi-layered outfits every time they walk out of their house. They don't want to have these sweaty hats on their head when it's 90 degrees out, you know. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they're progressing, and like the women with the old long dress, they don't like that either. You know, that's why they decriminalized women having to wear, you know, dresses to their ankles. Right? That was all for the visual pleasure of men. So as much as you want to say it, white man, that this, you're the one making the laws. So anyways, I gotta get out of here. I got stuff to do.